UPSC CSC Prelims 2025 is over, and now it's time for us to discuss the answers. Somewhat we can say this is unofficial answer key from Narayana IAS Academy. Now, we've been getting many calls and messages from students that we need some authentic answer key from where we can get to know about the score. So you can rely on this answer key. Now, if we look at the number of questions asked from different sections. So you see, science and technology, polity, and this history and art and culture part. Here we see for every section, there are total 16 questions that have been asked in this paper. Apart from that, we have current affairs segment dominating with 14 questions, and then we have economy section with 14 questions. Now this was anyway expected. You look at polity, you look at economy, overall the trend has remained the same, wherein they keep on asking at least 15 questions or somewhere in the range of 15 to 16 questions. Then for geography, we have 13 questions. Environment, we have 8 questions. IR and security, we have total 3 questions. Right? Now, I'll be dealing with the science and technology part, total 16 questions we will see. Question number 1. Now, before I start with this question, the PDF with answer key has been provided to you in the description box. You can just click on the link and you'll get these answer key. And with this answer key, if you cross check the score, and if your score is somewhere in the range of 85 to 90, then I can say you can start preparing for the mains, and you can very much prepare in such a way with the expectation that you are anyway clearing this exam, right? Now, let's start with the first question from science and technology segment. Now, the question says, consider the following types of vehicles: full battery electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, and fuel cell electric hybrid vehicles. Now see, how many of the above are considered alternative powertrain vehicles? Now, many students must have got confused with this term powertrain. This is nothing special as such. Any vehicle that you observe which has got some kind of let's say motor or some kind of engine which is helping it to move, all these things are part of this powertrain, right? So when we look at any car which is run through a diesel engine, so we're putting diesel over there, there's IC engine, let's say in bikes or in cars, all these are also a type of powertrain vehicle, right? So here we are talking about the conventional ones and the alternative ones. Now, conventionally we have been using IC engine. Alternatively, now we are talking about electric vehicles. Now, full battery electric vehicles, that means the vehicle which is run with the battery only. There's no other fuel as such. Let's say we have lithium ion battery. Now, is it a type of this alternative powertrain vehicle? Yes, it is an alternative that we are looking at. And we have been getting many articles in the newspaper also about electric vehicles. So this is exactly correct. Then second one, hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. Now this is in news since last 1 year continuously. It's not just 1 year, actually it is in news since last few years, but in last 1 year I have continuously observed that hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, they are being discussed. Hydrogen is a major source of energy for us right now. If you see, it is abundant in nature. That's why we are looking at hydrogen as a good fuel. And with the fuel cell, we can generate electricity, we can generate energy, right? So hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, this is also alternative powertrain vehicle. And then third is fuel cell electric hybrid vehicle. Now this is third type, wherein we will have fuel cell also and we will have this electric vehicle kind of a vehicle, wherein we have two different mechanisms in the same vehicle. Interesting. Again, this is part of alternative to the conventional vehicles that we are using. So if you ask me, all these can be considered as alternative powertrain vehicles. So the answer will be C, all the three. So I would consider this question as relatively easy for anyone to attempt. Okay. Now next question, question number 42. Now these numbers, question number we have taken from the set A. Okay. So 42 number question. With reference to unmanned aerial vehicles, that is UAV, that means they're talking about drones. Consider the following statements. All types of UAVs can do vertical landing. Vertical landing. Now, this is an extreme statement wherein when you say all types of UAVs or all types of drones, no, it is not necessary. There will be some drones which cannot do this vertical landing. It's not possible with them, right? So the statement becomes wrong. All types of UAVs can do automated hovering. Again, an extreme statement. It's not necessary that this automated hovering will be there. It's not necessary. Every drone is made by considering the needs. So we need the resources, we need the demand, we consider all the demands, we put the technology in and we make this drone. Now here it is not necessary that each drone will have vertical landing or automated hovering. It's not necessary. It's a very general statement, but they have tried to make it extreme. So both statements seem to be wrong. Okay. Now third is all types of UAVs can use battery only as source of power supply. Now, is it really necessary? Just think about it. Basically, it's a drone. When you look at drone, compare it with any other aircraft also. So, do you observe that aircraft run with only one kind of fuel? Okay, we have aircraft fuel. We have a separate kerosene for them. But we can use different fuels. Even you see when we look at missiles, when we look at other technologies with respect to space and all, we try to make use of different fuels, different methods to support this power supply. So we may use nuclear energy, we may use any other energy. So when you're making these drones, it is not necessary that only battery can be used. It's not necessary. Battery can be there, but we can also use any other method through which we can give this power supply. So third statement is wrong. So in this case, how many of the above statements given above are correct? They have asked about correct. I don't see any statement as correct. So D, none of the above is the right answer. Okay. Now, question number 43. In the context of electric vehicle batteries, consider the following elements. Now, they have given these elements: cobalt, graphite, lithium, nickel. And how many of the above usually make up battery cathodes? Now, when you talk about cathodes, we are talking about this positive ion, right? Now, this is a bit factual question, I would say. But if you use the logical method to see all these options, you look at cobalt, you look at lithium, nickel, graphite, you'll see that graphite is something which seems a bit odd in this category. Now, when we look at electric vehicle batteries, when you look at the cathode part or this positive ion part, you will see cobalt, you will see lithium, you will see nickel. But you won't see graphite. Graphite will rather be on the other side, that is the anode side or the negative ion side. Okay. So this one is the odd one out. So how many of the above usually make up battery cathodes? Except graphite, all three. So only three. C is the right answer over here. Okay. Now moving to the next question. Question number 44. Consider the following: cigarette butts, eyeglass lenses, car tires. How many of them contain plastic? Even if you use your common sense, you can get to the answer. And common sense says that nowadays, almost everywhere we are observing plastic. Now you look at cigarette butts, yes, there is plastic which is used. In the eyeglass lenses, there is plastic used. Although the type of plastic may vary, but there is use of plastic. And in the car tires also, somewhere we are making use of plastic. There is some element of plastic in it. So all three seem to be using plastic or they contain plastic. So easy question which can be solved with common sense, all of the above, all of the three. Then question number 45. Consider the following substances: ethanol, nitroglycerin and urea. Coal gasification technology can be used in the production of how many of them? Now see, coal gasification has remained in news in last 1 year. When we say coal gasification, we take the coal, we gasify it, we convert it into a gas. Now that gas is called as syngas. Okay, a synthetic gas that we make. And it's not a single gas, rather it's a mixture of multiple gases. So when you look at the composition, you'll get to the answer, wherein we can certainly make ethanol using the composition. We can make urea using the composition. But you cannot make this nitroglycerin. When you look at nitroglycerin, there is one element called glycerin over here. So if I look at the coal gasification technology, here I don't see anywhere nitroglycerin coming into picture. There is no role. There is no role of nitroglycerin as such. So that's the reason this one will be wrong one. So first and the third. So only 2B is the right answer over here. Next, question number 46. Bit factual question. What is the common characteristic of chemical substances generally known as Cl20, HMX, LLM105, which are sometimes talked about in media? These are alternatives to hydrofluorocarbon refrigerants. These are explosives in military weapons. These are high energy fuels for cruise missiles, and these are fuels for rocket propulsion. So if you are following news since last 1 year, you must have come through with these terms. Although I would consider this question as bit factual and bit difficult, only if you have read about these things. These are nothing but military weapons explosives. Okay, Cl20, HMX, LLM105. So when you look at the news from USA, or when you look at the world news, many a times we get to know about these terms. Okay, so these are explosives which are used in military weapons, right? Question number 47. Consider the following statements. It is expected that Majorana 1 chip will enable quantum computing. Second statement, Majorana 1 chip has been introduced by Amazon Web Services. And third, deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So which of these statements given above are correct? Now this Majorana 1, this chip has remained in news, and it was brought, or it is being introduced from Microsoft side. So Microsoft or some other companies are involved, but I don't see Amazon Web Services involved in this. So this is where UPSC has tried to make this question a bit tricky. So this statement becomes wrong. Second thing, yes, it is absolutely about quantum computing. So first statement becomes right. Now, third statement is very general statement. They're talking about deep learning. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning. So when you talk about machine learning, when you get into the AI, when you get into the machine learning part, wherein the machine is learning all the things on its own. So it involves deep learning for sure. So I would say first statement is right, third statement is right, second is wrong because of this factual change. So 1 and 3, C is the right answer. Now, next question. With reference to monoclonal antibodies often mentioned in news, consider the following statements. Now see, monoclonal antibodies, many students may say, sir, we have not read about it, but this was in news. In our magazines, we have covered it. In the daily news analysis, we have covered this topic, monoclonal antibodies. So those who have gone through it, this question was very easy to solve. So these antibodies, they are man-made proteins. Yes, they are man-made proteins. They stimulate immunological function due to their ability to bind to specific antigens, and they're used in treating viral infections like Nipah virus. So it's not like only Nipah virus, there will be other viruses where also we might be using this monoclonal antibodies, but this was in news, especially for this Nipah virus. Okay, so how it exactly was, the mechanism has been shown over here. This is the exact mechanism wherein it is going to attach or bind to the antigen. So I would say all three statements seem to be general statements which are correct. So 1, 2, 3, D is the right answer. Next, this one is very easy question, and those who have solved the previous year questions, they must be feeling, sir, this is very similar to the questions which have been asked previously. So there was one statement earlier asked wherein whether virus can infect bacteria or not. That was asked in the previous year papers. So somewhere we see the repetition of the same theme. See, the question says, no virus can survive in ocean waters. Why? Virus can survive in the ocean waters. Rather, we see many viruses in the ocean waters. So the statement is wrong. Then no virus can infect bacteria. Why? It can infect bacteria. Virus is capable of infecting bacteria. So this statement also becomes wrong. And no virus can change the cellular transcriptional activity in host cells. This is also not necessary. So all three statements are extreme and they are wrong statements. That's the reason how many of the statements given are correct. They have asked about correct, so none. D is the right answer. Next, question number 50. We've been given two statements. Statement number 1, activated carbon. This one is good and an attractive tool to remove pollutants from effluent streams and to remediate contaminants from various industries. Now, is this statement correct? Yes. And many students must be aware of this activated carbon. Many times we get this in news also. And this is a basic fact about activated carbon. Let's say there's heavy metal or some kind of contaminants or pollutants that we want to remove. We want to go for this remediation mechanism. We use activated carbon. Second statement, activated carbon exhibits a large surface area and strong potential for absorbing heavy metals. Yes, this is true. Now, this is showing the mechanism wherein the large surface area is playing major role in removing all these contaminants. Now, out of these two statements, both the statements are correct. Now, both statement 2 and we have statement 3 also. So, two statements seem to be correct. Now, statement 3, activated carbon can be easily synthesized from environmental waste with high carbon content. Now, this is where we need to think about it. Now, this statement seems correct. Now, when we look at it, both statement 2 and 3 are correct and both of them explain statement 1. Now, just think about it, and the statement absolutely is right. Statement 2 is right, statement 3 is right, 1 is also right, but rather 2 and 3 are explaining. They are explaining the first statement, that it is a good and attractive tool which is used for this remediation and all. So first is the right answer. You don't need to think about it again. Now, next, question number 81. Now, this is very easy question. Some rare earth elements, they're used in the manufacture of flat television screens and computer monitors. Rare earth elements are in news continuously. We've been reading about it. Even again, in the daily news analysis, in the magazines, we've covered this part. So they're used in the manufacturing of this flat television screens and computer monitors. Yes, they're used. Some rare earth elements have phosphorescent properties. Now see the correlation between statement 1 and 2. First of all, both the statements are right. First is right, second is right. Now see the correlation. The statement 2 is somewhat explaining the first one, or is showing the relation. So both statement 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 explains statement 1. Yes, it is explaining that we are using it in the computer monitors or we are using it in the television screens. Why? Because it has got this phosphorescent properties, or we can call it the luminescence properties, through which we can actually see it, that reflection of light, or that shiny surface, whatever you call it, the light part that we can observe. That's the reason we are using it. So first, that is A, is the right answer. Moving ahead with question number 82. Again, a very easy question which is about this Kavach. Indian Railways is planning to become net zero carbon emitter by 2028 under its net zero plan. Now, this was in news, everyone must have read about it. This was a basic fact. Second, they are talking about Kavach. Kavach is automatic train protection system which can prevent train collisions using radio frequency identification devices. Now say, the statement seems right, but it becomes wrong just because of this RFID. We are not using RFID in Kavach. RFID, we use RFID for our other vehicles like cars and all. So here we are not using it. So this statement becomes wrong. Rather, it's using this radio communication part. Kavach has been designed indigenously in India. Now this is also wrong. this statement. First statement becomes right, second statement becomes wrong, third statement indigenously becomes right. So if second is wrong, we see 1 and 3. C is the answer. Okay. Then next one, consider the following space missions: Axiom 4, SpaceX and Gaganyaan. How many of the space missions given above encourage and support microgravity research? Microgravity means you are trying to go for experiments in the space where you do not get any gravity, or there is very less gravity, right? So you see, when you go for Axiom mission, you go for SpaceX, you go for Gaganyaan. In all these missions, it is somewhere possible to check this microgravity research, or they are using the word support, encourage and support. So yes, it's a very generalistic statement, that's why we'll say all the three would be right. Then, with reference to transport aircrafts of India, consider the following pairs. Now this is very technical and very factual, so I'll just tell you the answer over here. First one is right, these two are not transport aircrafts as such. Only this AN-32 is. So only one would be the right answer over here. Next, artificial way of causing rainfall to reduce air pollution makes use of which of the following? So there's a term that we use which is called as cloud seeding. So we have got the technology through which we can artificially create rainfall. Let's say there is a lot of pollution, let's say in Delhi, a lot of pollution in the winters. So to reduce the level of pollution, we can go for using this technique called cloud seeding, through which we can bring artificial rainfall to reduce this pollution level. And to do this, we make use of silver iodide and potassium iodide. Now, because you should remember these two things, I would say this question is a bit on the factual side, so moderate to difficult. Okay, so this is about the artificial rain. Now, after this, we'll start with the polity section. So, Pratik sir will be taking care of the polity, IR, and the economy part. Okay, so let's meet.
Hello students, I am Pratik and I'll be taking the questions from Polity, Economy and International Relations. Now students, please understand the reason why you need to analyze the previous year questions. By analyzing the previous year questions, you get to know the type of questions asked in the examination, the logic behind it so that you can anticipate the questions that may appear next year. That's the reason if you hear the talks of the rank holders, they emphasize to go through the previous year questions, analyze them so that you understand the psyche of the examiners, the pattern on the basis of which they ask the question. And that is the reason students going through the previous year questions, analyzing them is very, very important to ensure your success in the examination. Right? So on this note, let us get started with the questions from the polity. So this question paper is the set A question paper, right? And the polity question starts from question number 51. So the question number 51, with reference to the Indian polity, consider the following statements, right? An ordinance, what is ordinance? Has got the same force and effect as that of law. An ordinance, which is nothing but it is a temporary law as per article 123. It is promulgated by the President of India as per article 123. An ordinance can amend any central act. Yes, ordinance has the power to amend any central act. This statement is correct. An ordinance can abridge, that is violate a fundamental right. Can an ordinary law violate fundamental right? No. So ordinance too cannot violate fundamental right. In case it violates fundamental right, it will be subject to judicial review. So this statement can abridge, this is incorrect. An ordinance can come into effect from a backdate. Backdate, which means retrospective effect. Retrospective effect can come into effect from backdate. It is clearly mentioned in Lakshmikant. Yes, the ordinance can be applied retrospectively, that is from a backdate. So this statement is also correct. 1 and 3. 1 and 3. So here we see option C is the correct answer for question number 51. Let us move on to the next question. Consider the following pace. Now this question I would keep it under the category easy. There's nothing difficult in this examination to decode. Next, consider the following pace. State description. Arunachal Pradesh. The capital is named after a fort and the state has two national parks. Now, again, one cannot be very sure about whether the state was named after a fort. So let's read the second statement. Nagaland, the state, came into existence on the basis of a Constitution Amendment Act. Yes, Nagaland had a very troubling history, and Nagaland was the first state to have got the status of statehood, right? And this was before, or this was in the year 1962 by the 13th Constitutional Amendment Act. Yes, this statement is correct. Now, Tripura, initially a Part C state, that is, once India became independent, it was under the category of Part C. So India had Part A, Part B and Part C. So this is how the states were classified under. It became a centrally administered territory, that is union territory, with the reorganization of states in 56. Yes, it became a UT and then later attained the status of full-fledged state in the year 1972 or 73, I guess. So this statement is correct. This statement is correct. How many of the above pairs are correctly matched? Only two. Now this is confusing. See, Arunachal Pradesh, the capital is named after a fort and the state has two national parks. Now, if you have a decent hold over environment and ecology, you understand or you know that Arunachal Pradesh has more than two national parks. So, yes, this statement, my guess says that this statement is also correct. So, it seems all the three statements are correct. So, I am going with option C. This is how you approach such type of questions. Again, I am not very sure if the state is named after a fort. I am not sure, but I know that the state has more than 2 national parks. So I go ahead with option C. Next question. With reference to India, consider the following: the Interstate Council, National Security Council, Zonal Councils. How many of the above were established as per the provisions of the Constitution of India? Which means, which of these three is a constitutional body? Constitutional body. Interstate Council, as per Article 263, is a constitutional body and it facilitates the coordination between center and the state. So this is a constitutional body. National Security Council, which was established in the year 1998, it is an executive body. It is an executive body and it is an advisory body with respect to internal and the external security. So this statement is incorrect. Zonal councils were again established in the year 1956 post the State Reorganization Act. So this is a statutory body, and which means only interstate council is a constitutional body, which means only one. Again, this question I would keep it under the moderate category. It's not a difficult question. This is for sure constitutional body. You are expected to know this. You may get confused with this one, but that's the reason I'm keeping this question under the moderate category. Moving on. Consider the following statements. The Constitution of India explicitly mentions that in certain spheres, the governor of a state acts in his or her own discretion. So the question is, does the governor has any discretionary power? Yes. Now, when no state or no political party enjoys a clear-cut majority, then it is the discretion of the governor to appoint a person as the chief minister, or the governor has a discretion to refer the bill passed by the state legislature for the reference of the president. So yes, the constitution explicitly mentions that in certain spheres, the governor of a state acts in his or her own discretion. So this statement is correct. The next statement: the president of India can, of his her own, reserve a bill passed by a state legislature for his or her consideration without it being forwarded by the governor of the state concerned. Now here, with respect to second statement, the language is complicated. So you have to decipher the meaning of this statement, and if you decipher and if you have the practice of English comprehension, then you will be in a better position to understand what this statement is meant or statement means. So the President of India reserve bill passed by a state for his or own consideration, which means it says that when a bill is passed by the state legislature, the President by his own suo motu can take the bill for reference. Is it possible? No. Which means the president can see into the provisions of the bill only when the governor of a state refers the bill for the reference of the president. The president cannot by his or her own take the matter in his or her hand. So this statement is incorrect. These words are incorrect. So I'm going ahead with one only. Again, only the language is complicated. If you read the statement twice, you'll be in a position to understand the meaning of the sentence. So yes, A is the correct answer. Next question. Consider the following pairs: provisions and the stated and okay. Separation of judiciary from the executive in the public services of the state. Part of separation of power principle. This is mentioned in the directive principles. Okay, valuing and preserving the rich heritage of a composite culture, fundamental duties, prohibition of employment of children below the age of 14 years, article 24. Yes, this is correct. Now separation of judiciary is mentioned in article 50 of the Indian constitution, which is part of directive principle. This is correct. And then it is a fundamental duty of each and every citizen to preserve the rich heritage of our diverse culture. So yes, all the three statements are correct. So option C is the correct answer for question number 51. The next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the constitution if an area in a state is declared as scheduled area under the 5th schedule. So questions are often asked from the 5th and the 6th schedule. The state government loses its executive power in such areas and a local body assumes total administration. The tone of the statement itself tells me that this is incorrect. How can a state lose the executive power with respect to the areas that fall under its jurisdiction? It's not a union territory. And how is it possible that a local body, autonomous body, assumes the total control of such area? Yes, with respect to scheduled area, the governor, who is an agent of the center has a say with respect to governance. But nowhere it is possible that the state government is completely losing its executive power. The governor can make regulations for the peace and good governance, but the state government is not losing any executive power. So this statement is incorrect. The union government can take over the total administration of such areas. Can total, see total, and how is it possible? It completely disturbs the federal nature of a state. This is not possible, right? So the tone of the statement, total administration loses its executive power. The tone of the statement tells me that there's something wrong with these words. So can take over the total administration under certain circumstances. Which circumstance? No, we have a local body. For example, we have tribal advisory council in these scheduled areas for the governance, but even tribal advisory council is an advisory body. So this statement is also incorrect. Option D is the correct answer. I hope you are getting it right. The next question with reference to India, consider the following pairs. Organization, Union Ministry, the National Automotive Board. Okay, the national, again this is factual, so you need a good decent hold over current affairs. So we expected to have a decent hold of the current affairs, and but still this question, I would keep this question under uh, moderate category. Now again, if you use common sense and use a bit of logic, the National Automotive Board, automation has got to do with something big, so it has to fall under Ministry of Heavy Industries. The choir board again is a part of small enterprise, which means has to be under MSME. The National Center for Trade, which means commerce, it has to be under commerce. So this is how it should be. National Automotive Board, this one, choir board, and this is how it should be. So how many of the above pairs are correctly matched? None. D. Next, consider the following subjects under the Constitution of India. List A, Union list in the 7th schedule. Extent of the executive powers of a state. Conditions of the governor office. For a constitutional amendment with respect to which of the above, ratification by the legislature of not less than one half of the states is required before presenting the bill to the President of India for assent. Which means of the three, if let's say any of these are to be amended, then out of three, for which provision would the ratification of state 50% be required? Ratification is required when it is affecting the federal nature of a state. Union list in the 7th schedule. Now let's say if a subject is to be transferred from state list to union list or union list to state list, it is affecting the federal nature. So for this, you need ratification of state, support from the states, extent of the executive power. Now, executive power, let's say if the center is taking away the executive power from a state, it needs support from the states. So yes, for this, state support is required. Third, the conditions of the governor's office. Now, governor is an agent of the center. The central government appoints the governor. State government has absolutely no say with respect to conditions of the office of governor. It's not affecting the federal nature. Why? Because the office of governor is a unitary feature, not federal feature. So this is incorrect. 1 and 2, option A is the correct answer for question number 58. Moving on, next question. With reference to the Indian polity, consider the following states. The governor of a state is not answerable to any court for the exercise and performance of the powers and duties of his or her office. Thus is the immunity provided to the governor. These are the exceptions provided. Exceptions to Article 14. Not answerable to any court. Yes, no criminal proceeding shall be instituted or continued against the governor during his term. Yes, these are the immunities provided to governor. Members of a state are not liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said within the house. This is the freedom of speech given to the members of parliament as well as the state legislature. Which of the statements given above are correct? All the three. Option D. Again, a very easy question. Next, consider the following activities: production, refining, storage and distribution of petroleum, marketing and sale of petroleum products, and production of natural gas. How many of the above activities are regulated by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board? Now see, when it comes to the Petroleum and Natural Gas Regulatory Board, this is not involved in the upkeep activities like production. They only regulate. The production is looked after by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So production, wherever there is production, this cannot be the case. Refining, marketing, yes, it falls under, it is regulated by this board. How many of the above? 2, that is 2 and 3 only, which means it has to be option B, only 2. Again, this I would say you need a decent understanding of the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and the bodies under the ministry. Again, a part of current affairs, so you need a good hold over current affairs. Consider the following statements with regard to pardoning power of the President of India. The exercise of this power, pardoning power by the President, can be subject to limited judicial review. Yes, which means only when the decision is arbitrary, when the decision is mala fide, taken in bad intention, then the pardoning power exercised by the President will be subject to judicial review. So this statement is correct. The President can exercise this power without no. Article 74 states that the President can take decision only on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, which means the President cannot simply take a decision without the advice of Council of Ministers. So this statement is grossly inaccurate. First statement, option A is the correct answer for question number 86. Next question, question number 87. Consider the following statements. On the dissolution of the House of the People, that is Lok Sabha, the Speaker shall not vacate his or her office until immediately before the first meeting of the House of the People after the dissolution, which means the Speaker continues to be in the office until a new Lok Sabha is elected or constituted. This statement is absolutely correct. The sentences may confuse you, but if you read the sentence, it's a very easy statement. According to provisions of Constitution, a member of the House of People on being elected as Speaker shall resign. No, there is no constitution, no statutory provision which mandates the Speaker, a person elected as Speaker, to vacate his membership of the political party. This is a convention in the UK. It's actually a very healthy convention, but India has not yet adopted this convention. So this is incorrect. The Speaker of the House may be removed from his or her office by resolution of the House of the People passed by a majority of then members. Now, see this statement of the House, provided no resolution shall be moved unless at least 14 days notice has been given to the intention to move the resolution. See, when it comes to removal of speaker, 14 days notice period is given. Once the notice period is given, resolution will be moved, and to pass a resolution, majority of then members is required. It's not only the members who are present and voting, the then members who were available during the election of speaker. So this statement is also correct. 1 and 3. Again, a straightforward question from the book. Next, consider the following statements. If any question arises as to whether a member of the House of People has become subject to disqualification under the 10th schedule, the President's decision. Very simple question. It's completely inaccurate. It is the Speaker's decision. Grossly inaccurate. There is no mention of the word political party in the Constitution of India. 52nd Amendment clearly mentions the word political party. This one is inaccurate. So very simple, easy question. This statement may confuse you, but what is 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act? The anti-defection, it's clearly mentioned. If a member switches from a political party to another political party, he stands to be removed. Next question, statement 1. In India, the state governments have no power for making rules for grant of concessions in respect of extraction of minor minerals, even though such minerals are located in their territories. Again, as per the Mines and Mineral Development and Regulation Act of 1957, the state government has the power to make rules to grant concessions with respect to extraction of minor minerals. So this statement is incorrect. In India, the central government has the power to notify. Yes, they have the power to notify which are the minerals under the category of major and minor under the relevant law. Yes, the state government, central government has the power, and then the state government will administer and regulate the minerals. So this statement is correct. So statement 1 is not correct. Statement 2 is correct. Option D is the correct answer. Right? Question number 91. Panchayats at the intermediate level exist in all states. Now, there is a clear-cut provision which states that only the states having more than 20 lakh population will have an intermediate governance, let's say, mechanism. So panchayat at the intermediate level exists in, no, it does not exist in all the states. Only population having more than 20 lakhs. To be eligible to be a member of panchayat at the intermediate level, a person should attain the age of 30 years. Grossly, it is 21 years. Very simple statement. The Chief Minister of a state constitutes a commission to review the financial. From when the Chief Minister constitutes a commission? Either it is the president at the center level or the governor at the state level. So the statement, the first statement itself, gives me a feeling that Chief Minister is nowhere involved with respect to appointing commission. It's a state finance commission. So all the three statements are incorrect. Which of the statements given above are not correct? Incorrect. All the three. Option D is the correct answer. So students, we are done with the question from the polity. So what is the takeaway from polity questions? Your takeaway from the polity questions is, one, you need to have a strong command over the static concept. There is no escape, there's no running away from the standard book that we all follow to have a decent command over Indian polity, which is the Lakshmikant. You cannot escape that book. Had you had a decent command over the Indian polity, I'm pretty sure you would be in a position where 80 to 90% of the questions from polity would have been correct. So you're learning. I have no idea to what extent you got the questions or answer correct or incorrect, but the learning, the takeaway is that in case efficiency your efficiency is less than 70 to 80%, which means you do not have a good hold over the subject, which means you have to revise your standard book. Make sure that when it comes to static concepts, you are thoroughly prepared with respect to all the static concepts in the book. So this is your takeaway, and always try to make sure that you are in touch with the current affairs, because anti-defection law, scheduled area, these are the topics that appear in the newspaper. So what UPSC does is they look at the current affairs and they ask question from that topic with respect to, let's say, static concept. So the article, the current affairs topic may talk about scheduled area, but the examiner wants you to know the provisions with respect to scheduled area, so they ask you a question. I hope you understood all the questions you have. You are in a position to better anticipate the type of question UPSC may ask and the logic behind the question asked. Now students, let us move on to the next subject, which is international relations and security. Now the questions, few of the questions we have kept it under the current affairs category. So the next faculty will discuss the questions from the current affairs category, but the questions which I felt that would perfectly fit in the IR category are only 3 numbers. So the first question, consider the following statements: Austria, Bulgaria, Croatia, Serbia, Sweden, North Macedonia. How many of the above are members of NATO? NATO, why? Because of the Russia-Ukraine war, you expected to know all the countries that border Russia. NATO is always in the news. It's more in the news. Why? Because of the Russia-Ukraine war. So you expected to know about NATO, Warsaw Pact, the Central Asian countries, the East European countries. So how many of the above are members of NATO? So Austria is not a member. Croatia is also, or sorry, Serbia is not a member. So Bulgaria, Croatia, Sweden, North Macedonia, they all are members of NATO. So 4, only 4. B is the correct answer. India is one of the founding members of the International North-South Transport Corridor. Again, it was in the news, a multi-modal transportation corridor which will connect India to Central Asia, right? So will connect from India to Iran, Iran to Central Asia, Central Asia to Europe. This is the INST multimodal corridor. So India to Central Asia to Europe via Iran, India to Central China, of course, not a question. Through Bangladesh, not in picture. To Europe through Azerbaijan. Very, very simple question. Again, it was in the news. Consider the following statements in respect of the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is part of the World Bank. It provides loans and guarantees to middle income countries. Yes, it provides loans and guarantees to also low income countries having a rich credit worth. It works single-handedly to help developing countries to reduce poverty. Single-handed. Now, see, there's such type of words should make you suspicious. How it is possible to single-handedly work or help the countries? So this tone, the tone of the statement is incorrect. It was established to help Europe rebuild after the World War II. Yes. So which of the statements given above are correct? Statement of 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Option C is the correct answer. So again, when it comes to current affairs, you need to make sure international relations, to make sure that you need to be in touch with all the important current affairs of at least the last 1.5 years. The questions from international relations are very easy if the answers that you attempted are incorrect, which means you do not have a hold on the international relations or for that matter current affairs. There's a reason when it comes to prelims, all the focus is on static and current affairs. You cannot just focus on static and ignore current affairs, or you cannot just focus on current affairs and then ignore static. You have to be prepared. And this year the questions were a bag of mixed bag of static as well as the current affairs questions. Now students, let us move on to the economy section. Let us discuss the questions from economy. Okay. With reference to investments, consider the following: bonds, hedge funds, stocks, and venture capital. How many of the above are treated as alternative investment funds? Which means you need to know the difference between traditional investments and alternative investments. Now, when it comes to this question, it's clearly understandable that hedge funds and venture capital, they are treated as alternative investment funds as per the SEBI regulations. So the alternative investment funds, they include investments that fall outside the traditional assets like bonds and stocks. And the alternative investment funds are categorized into three types. One is the venture capital, the second one is the private equity, and the third one is the hedge funds. Bonds and stocks, they are traditional investment instruments and not alternative investment funds. That's the reason. How many of the above are treated? Only two. Option B is the correct answer. Next question. Which of the following are the sources of income for the Reserve Bank of India? Buying and selling government bonds, buying and selling government bonds, buying and selling foreign currency, pension fund, lending to private companies, printing. See, it's very clear that the first and the second options, which means the RBI earns money from buying and selling government bonds and foreign currency transactions. The third and statement is out of question. RBI is not. And have you ever heard that RBI is lending loan to a private company or looking after the pension? No. But the third statement may confuse you. See, please remember that RBI also earns through seigniorage. What is seigniorage? The difference between the face value of the currency issued and the cost of printing. It does not earn from pension management, or let's say from lending to private companies. That's the reason 1, 2 and 4, 1, 2 and 5, 1, 2 and 5. Option D is the correct answer for second question. Next question. With reference to Government of India, consider the following information, organization, functions and works under. Directorate of Enforcement, yes, it enforces Fugitive Economic Offenders Act 18. This was so many times in the news because ED is always in the news, right? It is always in the news. It works under Internal Security Division, Ministry of Home Affairs. No students, it does not work under Ministry of Home Affairs just because it is mentioned that Internal Sec Division, it works under Ministry of Finance. Second, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence enforces the provisions of the Customs Act. Again, Customs, it is always in the news. Department of Revenue, this one is correct. Directorate General of Systems and Data Management, given the role and importance of data, right, into day-to-day affairs. So this organization is always in the news. Carrying out big data analytics to assist tax officers for better policy and nabbing the tax evaders, it falls on Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. Even this one is correct. So, how many of the above rows in the information correctly matched? 1 and 2. 1 and 2, option B is the correct answer. Again, this question is directly linked to your current affairs. So, expected to know or have a good hold over the current affairs. Yes, it's a question from economy, but you need to know a line or two from. I mean, you need to have a good hold over current affairs. So few questions you see they're mix of your static as well as the current. So this is a perfect. This is a perfect fit. Next, the Reserve Bank of India mandates all the listed companies in India to submit a business responsibility and sustainability report, which, see, this statement is grossly inaccurate. Why? It may seem that, okay, RBI, no, it is not the RBI, it is not uh, the mandate to submit the business responsibility and sustainability report. It lies with the SEBI and not with the RBI. SEBI it introduced this report. Why? Guidelines for the top 1000 listed companies. So first statement is incorrect. In India, a company submitting BRSR, that is, makes disclosures in the report that are largely non-financial in nature. Now this statement is correct because the report primarily requires companies to disclose non-financial information. And which is this? This includes the details, let's say, related to environment impact, social responsibility, corporate governance, and also sustainability initiatives. Now, this disclosures help the stakeholders to assess a company's long-term value and sustainability practices beyond the financial performance. So, this statement is correct. It is SEBI. Okay. How many of the above are correct? Only 2. Next statement. Statement 1. In India, income from allied agricultural activities like poultry farming or wool rearing in rural areas is exempted from any tax. Now, please remember that statement 1 is not correct. Why? Because under the Income Tax Act, income from allied agricultural activities like the poultry farming and wool rearing is not treated as agriculture income. Therefore, such income is not fully exempt from tax even if it is conducted in the rural areas. Only income from activities directly related to land cultivation is considered agriculture, and so it is exempt. So, as per the Income Tax Act, this is not exempt, so this statement is incorrect. Statement. In India, rural agricultural land is not considered a capital asset under the provisions of the Income Tax Act. So the second statement is correct. Why? Because the rural agriculture in India is not considered as a capital asset. This is something that is commonly known. So this statement is correct, which means statement 1 is not correct. Okay. Option D is the correct answer for question number 5. Next question, consider the following statements as regards returns from an investment in a company. Generally, the bondholders are considered to be relatively at lower risk than the stakeholders. Now, please remember this statement is correct. Why? Because the bondholders are typically considered, right, to face lower risk than stockholders. This is something very, very common. Why? Because the bonds offer fixed interest payments and are repaid before any payment to shareholders in the event of, let's say, in case there's a liquidation. Statement number 2, bondholders are lenders to a company whereas stockholders are its owners. Very simple. Yes, this statement is correct. Why? Because bondholders, they are lenders to the company. They receive interest but do not own any part of the company. Stockholders, you are the owner of the company. So very simple statement. For repayment purpose, bondholders are prioritized over stockholders. Yes, this statement is also absolutely correct. So which of the following statement, all the three statements are correct? Uh, Statement are correct and both of them explain statement 1. Both statement are correct. Statement 1 explains statement 2. Only one statement of correct and explains statement 1. Neither statement. So this fourth is incorrect. Okay, so the options are a bit confusing. The statements are simple. Both statement 1 are correct and both of them explain statement 1. Okay. 2 and 3 are correct. Perfect. Option is the correct answer. Statement 2 and 3, right? They are correct. And this statement is justifying statement 1. So option A is the correct answer. Next question. Question number 8. India accounts for a very large portion of all equity option contracts traded globally, thus exhibiting a great boom. So again, a very, if you have read the topic, it is easy for you to attend this question. This statement is absolutely correct. Why? Because India has indeed emerged as the world's largest market for equity derivatives trading, especially in equity options. Each, like even the students from school are involved in equity, involved in trading. So data from the Bank for International Settlements and National Stock Exchange shows that India contributes a large share of globally, or let's say global equity options volume, reflecting a boom in the derivatives trading. Next statement, India's stock market has grown rapidly in the recent past, even overtaking Hong Kong at some point of time. Yes, given the boom, this statement is correct now because India's stock market has witnessed significant growth in recent years. So this statement is also correct. Then there is no regulatory body either to warn the small investors about the risk of option trading or to act on unregistered financial advisors in this. Now see, this statement is incorrect. Why? Because India has a clear regulatory framework and that framework has been mandated by the SEBI, which regulates the security markets, and they warn the retail investors about the risks of option trading. So this one is correct, this one is correct, this is incorrect. Option, correct answer is option A. Next, again, static concept. Circular economy reduces the emissions of greenhouse gases, which means yes, circular economy. Circular economy. The aim is to reduce greenhouse gases by minimizing waste, encouraging the reuse and recycling, and reducing dependency on virgin material extraction. Next statement, circular economy reduces the usage of raw materials as inputs. Yes, this statement is also correct. Why? Because circular economy practice, it focuses on minimizing the use of raw materials. How? By promoting use of, let's say, reuse or refurbishment or recycling. Third statement, circular economy reduces wastage. Yes. So if this is correct, this is also correct. So both statements are correct and both of these statements explain. Okay. Neither statement, fourth is incorrect, only statements correct. And so again, the correct answer is option A, right? The correct answer is option A, right? Very simple question, right? Let us move on to the next question. Again, a static concept. Capital receipts create a liability or cause a reduction in the assets of the government. Now, this statement is correct. Why? Because capital assets, they either create liabilities like, let's say, borrowing, or result in reduction of assets, asset that is like disinvestment, or let's say recovery of loans. they are non-recurring in nature, and this actually impact the government's balance sheet. So this statement is correct. Borrowing and disinvestments are capital receipts. Yes, so again you need to know the difference between capital receipt, capital expenditure, right? So this statement is also correct. Interest received on loans create. How can it create a liability? This is incorrect. It's a part of revenue receipt. Receipt is the incoming money, so it's not creating a liability. Incorrect. Very simple question if you know the concept of capital market. So this question is very easy for you to attempt. Next question. Okay, so this reminds me of the examination that I used to give when I was in school. Subtraction, addition, subtraction, formula. Suppose the revenue expenditure is 80,000, okay, revenue 80,000 crores and revenue receipt 60,000 crores. The government budget also shows borrowings of 10,000 crores and interest payment of 6,000. So there are four figures. Which of the following statements are correct? For that you need to know the formula. Now what is revenue deficit? Revenue deficit is revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. And what is revenue expenditure? 80,000. 80,000. Revenue receipt 60k, 20,000 crore. First statement is correct. What is the formula of fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is total expenditure minus total receipt. What is total expenditure? Yes. So it is also equal to borrowing. So please remember fiscal deficit, total expenditure minus total receipt, which is excluding the borrowing. So this is a catch. It is also equal to borrowings as given. It is also equal to borrowing as given. So the government budget also shows borrowing of 10,000 crore, which means it's fiscal deficit. Borrowing, it is equal to borrowing. So this is 10,000 crore. And then what is the definition of primary deficit? Primary deficit is the fiscal deficit minus interest payment. And what is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is 10,000 crores. And what is interest payment? 6,000 crores, 4,000 crores. So all the 1, 2, 3 correct using option D is the correct answer. So it's a very simple question. A country's fiscal deficit, okay, it is receiving 10,000 crores through non-debt creating capital receipts. The country's interest liability is 1,500 crores. What is the gross primary debt? What is primary deficit? Primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus interest payment. Fiscal deficit, how much it is? 50,000 crores. And then what is the interest liability? 1,500. So what is the correct answer? So primary 50,000 minus 1,500 is 48,500. Where is it? Very simple question. It's just a simple math calculation. You need to know the formula. That's it. So which of the following statements with regard to recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission? Now we all know that the recommendation of 15th Commission or any commission is so important. So we need to know the recommendations. So it has recommended grants of 4,800 crores from the year 22-23 for the year 25-26 for incentivizing states to enhance education outcomes. Yes, absolutely correct. 45% of the net proceeds. Now see again, of the union taxes are to be shared with states. It is not 45, it is 41%. This is incorrect. 45,000 crores are to be kept as performance based incentive for all states for carrying out agriculture reforms. Yes, it reintroduced tax effort criteria to reward fiscal. Yes, very true. So statement number 2 is incorrect. Option C is the correct answer. So this is nothing but you need to know the recommendations, and this is something very, very important for any student of economy to know or understand the recommendations of the Finance Commission. Consider the following statements in respect of RTGS, the payment, right? The payment system. In RTGS, the settlement time is instantaneous, while in case of NEFT, yes, it takes time. So I hope you must have transferred money using RTGS. RTGS is like you transfer the money in no time, it's instant. NEFT takes 1 hour, 1.5 hours, I guess. In RTGS, the customer is charged for inward transactions, while that it is not the case for NEFT. This statement is incorrect. Why? The RTGS is charged for outward transaction, not inward transaction. Operating hours for RTGS are restricted on certain days, while this the operating hours for RTGS, right, and FT, they are not at all restricted. So this statement is also incorrect. Option A is the correct answer. Next, consider the following countries: UAE, France, Germany, Singapore, Bangladesh. How many countries amongst the above are there other than India where international merchant payments are accepted under UPI? Okay, under UPI, Bangladesh is not for sure, right? And then I guess France is a part of it. UAE, yes, it was in the news. Singapore also it was in the news. So Germany, I don't think so. It is so 1, 3, and 4 countries among only 3. It has to be option B. So again, a part of current affairs. So I guess once we are done with the questions from economy. So again, economy, or let's say polity, the key takeaways are: do not ignore the static concept. On the base of static concept, they can ask you any applied part. And current affairs is something really very important. So again, to clear the examination, the mantra has to be simple. You need to revise, you need to focus on each and every subject. You cannot focus more on any subject and ignore any subject. You have to give equal importance to each and every subject along with focusing on current affairs, right? So that's it from my part. The next part, that is history, current affairs, geography, and environment and ecology, will be taken by Surekha. So that's it from my part. Thank you so much.
Hello, all. A great evening. A warm welcome to all of you to yet another live session of Narayana IAS Academy. So, this is going to be the continuation of our prelims, that is UPSC Prelims 2025 paper discussion. So, all of you know this is Sureka Bhaskar, and you would have actually seen me taking the masterclass, the DNA, etc. So, today we are here to discuss and analyze the questions that have been asked yesterday in the UPSC examination. So, if I have to talk about yesterday's paper, let me just have a couple of minutes on that. So if you see, yesterday was more of application based question paper. It was more of a common sense question paper, because questions like the atmosphere, or you can talk about the isotherms that actually that are bent towards the equator during January and towards the polls. And there were other questions also. I just don't recall that you recall many of it, but there were more of common sense questions, okay, like activated carbon, and then you have the direct air capture, which is a part of carbon sequestration. And also, if you take portions of economy, it was application based, right? So it what does all this imply? It means that you need to have a great conceptual clarity. For example, you need to know what is the concept of capital expenditure. You need to know what are capital receipts, revenue receipts, and what do you mean by primary deficit or fiscal deficit. Okay, so from the total fiscal deficit, if you subtract your interest rates, then will that give you your primary deficit or not? So what is fiscal deficit, the BOP crisis, BOP, that is balance of payment, all that you need to know. Okay, and so yesterday was more of an application based paper. Okay, and you know, few of the regions such as ancient India, as well as you had questions from polity, that you can actually say you have to have subject knowledge, because it was directly asked. Okay, so then also the words were not directly framed. They were, the statements were very very long. It was time consuming, so you had to be very very quick, okay, in answering the questions. So let's not deal with what can be the cutoff and what cannot be. So all of you who have taken up this examination, you will know whether you will get through, because nothing is actually stronger than the gut feeling or the inner conscience that actually gives you an answer. If you feel that you will get through, please do gear up, and you need to now start preparation of with respect to your mains examination. Please start with your optional, ethics, and so on. Answer writing is mandatory from now on. For those who feel you would not clear, okay, so I think having 90 to 95 or 100 marks would be a comfortable, you can actually crack the exam comfortably. If not, you can again focus on your optional subject, as well as your ethics, as well as mains answer writing. So by the time when the results are actually announced, you can decide whether you will be, you will know that whether you will be writing the mains examination, or you will have few more months to appear for the next prelims examination, that is preliminary 2026. Okay, so having said all this, I wish you a very all the best. And now I will actually take you through the few sections. That is, I'll be dealing with environment and ecology. I'll be discussing geography with you. I'll be discussing history, art and culture. Followed by that, we will be discussing the current affairs portion as well. And it's actually, it gives me immense happiness to say that our current affairs series and our monthly Navigator magazine has performed really, really well, because we have 18 to 20 questions asked. Okay, so we have actually covered. So now this gives you a clarity for you guys, that this, the master class that we had taken up, as well as the monthly magazine that's available on our website, all these have actually not gone waste. Okay, so our efforts had paid after analyzing yesterday's paper. Now let's quickly move forward and start with the first section, that is geography. Okay, so just give me a minute. I'm not able to select the pen. Just give me a minute. Let me just get this sorted. Okay, I'm not able to select the pen. Yeah. So now let's actually get started. So the first, what is a question under the section of geography? Let's read the question. Consider the following, countries, and which of these countries are through which these Andes mountain range passes through. So Andes passes through which of the above countries? So from here, what is our takeaway? Your physical map of India as well as world, okay, becomes very, very, very important, because the map questions, how many questions were there? The equator actually passes through which of the following, and then the rivers pass through which of the following regions. So these were the questions that were asked yesterday. So I hope you understand how important is this mapping for us, right? So consider the following. So does Bolivia, actually does Andes pass through Bolivia? Yes, it passes through Bolivia. So if you see the map of South America, you have the Andes range over here. So with more or less, what to say, if you guys have been to Brazil or heard about it or even looked at it on the map anytime, okay, and if you know it is actually not towards the west but it's towards the east, you can see Brazil over here. So in the Andes does not pass through that, so you could have eliminated this particular option. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Is 5 over here? Yes, it is there, so we will keep this one also there. Then Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay as well as Venezuela. So in Venezuela also a portion of the Andes actually passes through it. Okay. So this is a purely map based question. So you do not have what? You have Bolivia, you have Colombia, you have Ecuador, but you do not have Paraguay. But instead of Paraguay, you have Peru. Okay. So what are the 7 different countries? Okay. So the Andes pass through 7 different countries of South America, which actually include Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, and then you have Venezuela. Along with that, you have Argentina, and then you have Chile, and then you have Peru. Okay, so these are the countries that the Andes mountain ranges actually pass through. So here, how many are correct? So Bolivia is correct, Colombia is correct, Ecuador is correct, Venezuela. So 4. So only 4. C is your option. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So now let's move forward and see the picture of the Andes mountain system. So if you see, this is your Andes mountain system. So it passes through Argentina. So here you have the Chile, and then you can see Bolivia over here. This is Paraguay. So it does not pass through Paraguay. Okay. This is Uruguay, again does not pass through. And then if you see, this is actually Brazil. Okay. So Brazil actually does not have the Andes passing through it. And then you actually have your what to say, Colombia over here. You have Ecuador over here, and then you have Venezuela over here. Okay. So all these regions are the countries through which this particular mountain range actually passes through. So this is done. Now the next question, consider the following water bodies. So similarly, lakes like oceans, the straits, the isthmus, as well as the Gulf regions, as well as these lakes become equally important. Okay, specifically the equator passes through which of the countries, which of the states, as well as in that particular country which are the countries through which equator passes through, all that becomes important. Okay, so here let's see Lake Tanganyika. This is present where? In Africa. But does equator pass through it? No, equator doesn't pass through it. Lake Tonle Sap, again no. And the Patos Lagoon, this is somewhere in the South American region. There also equator actually does not pass through. Okay, so if you see Africa, there are other lakes like you have Lake Victoria, and equator passes through Lake Victoria, and you have Lake Tumba, okay, which is actually present in Democratic Republic of Congo. So these are all the lakes through which the equator actually passes through. So none of the above. So your answer becomes D. Okay, so this is your second question. Next one, question number 24. This is actually a kind of a current affair plus the thing that you need to know. Okay, that is the agriculture wise, India is actually the largest producer of which particular crop. India is the largest consumer or exporter of which particular crop. Okay, and what are the geographical locations or the states across which that these crops you can actually find, all that you need to know. Okay, so this question is such a a reminder for you to understand those kind of questions. Okay, So, India is the largest producer and exporter of turmeric in the world. You might be confused, right? Whether it is, okay, producer is fine. Are we the largest exporter? Or if you think exporter is fine, are we the largest producer? Yes, we are the largest producer, the exporter, as well as a consumer. Largest consumer of what? Turmeric in the world. And if you see the produce, 75% of the global production of turmeric actually comes from India. Similarly, take up very, very important crops like coffee, tea, etc. and actually make a comparative analysis. Next one, more than 30 varieties of turmeric are grown in India. Yes, see, turmeric is something that we use every day, right? Haldi. Every day we use in our homes. So you need to know India is such a diverse country. So there can be different varieties. This is more of a, you know what to say, an analytical question. You can think and you can answer. Then the leading states are Maharashtra, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. These are the major turmeric producing states in India. So this is also correct. So 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Again, your answer is option D. Again, note that whether they are asking are correct or are not correct. Okay, so this becomes important. Now, let's move to the next question. That is the 25th question. So, which of the following are the evidences of the continental drift? Okay. So, you guys would have heard about the continental drift theory, right? Continental drift theory. This was actually given by Alfred Wegener. Okay, Alfred Wegener, 1912. So, what does this theory say? All the continents that we actually have today, like Antarctica, we have the Americas, then we have the Europe, etc. All these were combined as one supercontinent or a big landmass, which was called as the Pangea, and that was surrounded by the super ocean that was called as the Panthalassa. Okay, so Pangea and Panthalassa, and this particular phenomenon of continental drift actually started taking place. So all the landmass that was actually combined together started drifting apart. Okay, and then it became two big land masses, that is one towards the north was called as the Laurasia and the one towards the south was called as the Gondwana. Okay, so this is the basic about your continental drift theory. So what are they saying over here? So if you see as a result of continental drift, you actually have the course of different. So see, this is actually Africa. Let me be very, rough about it. So this is Madagascar, and then you have North America. Okay, so this is South America. This is South America. So if you see, they would perfectly have a jigsaw fit. That is, it's like a puzzle. Okay, so if you move South America towards this portion, you will actually find a perfect fit. So this will be somewhat like this. Okay, so whatever are the biodiversity over here, or any kind of the life, okay, or you can say the ecology over here, and if you see the forest types over there, the animals which are on either side, the minerals that are actually found, so all this, or you can say the coal deposits which are found, all this can be similar in both the coasts. Okay, so based on this continental drift theory, a question was asked. Again, if you know the basic of continental drift, as well as if you can visualize the map, you still can get through. So here the belt of ancient rocks from Brazil coast. So Brazil is over here, right? So the ancient rocks from the coast of Brazil matches with those from Western Africa. Sounds right? Yes, this is correct. Okay. Next one, the gold deposits of Ghana have been derived from the Brazil plateau when the two continents lay side by side. Yes, that is also correct. Next one, the Gondwana system of sediments, okay, which is formed in India, is known to have its counterparts in 6 different land masses of the southern hemisphere. Okay, so what are the 6 different land masses? Is this correct or not? Yes, this is also correct. Okay, so sedimentary rocks which can actually be found over here, it has also been found in other land masses. Okay, the other land masses can be what? It can be Antarctica, right, in the southern hemisphere. So it can be Australia, So it can be South America, it can be South Africa, it can be Madagascar. Okay, so all these can be the other regions where this particular deposits are found. Okay, so all the three are actually correct. So 1, 2 and 3 answer is option C. Now let's move towards the next question. So if you actually can see the jigsaw fit, I actually told you. So this is your African continent before even Madagascar separated out from it, and this is actually your what? Your South America. You have your Falkland Islands and all this over here. Okay, so this is actually your question. Next one, question number 26. The amount of dust particles in the atmosphere is more in the subtropical and the temperate areas than in the equatorial and the polar regions. Yes, why this actually happens? Because the what to say, the air mass, okay, or you can say the air which is usually found in the equatorial regions or the tropical regions, it is actually what? Warm air which can hold more moisture. Okay, and then the moisture finds out few dust particles as the condensation nuclei, and then the rain actually comes. So these are moisture laden winds, okay, in the equatorial regions. Whereas if you move up towards the subtropical and the temperate regions, what happens? Here the air is comparatively dry. Okay, and dry air has more dust. So let's see, the amount of dust particles in the atmosphere is more in the subtropical and the temperate areas than the equatorial regions. Yes, this is correct. Next one, subtropical and temperate areas have less dry air, less dry winds. Do they have less dry winds? No, they have more dry winds. Why would I say they have more dry winds? Because you have winds that actually come from the polar regions towards the temperate as well as the subtropical regions. Okay, so now let's see which one of the following is correct. Both statements 1 and 2 are correct. No, because statement 2 is incorrect. So this statement itself is incorrect. Next one, both statement 1 and 2 are correct. No, again this is wrong. So statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is not correct. So your answer is option C. Okay. Next one. Let's move forward to the 27th question. Consider the following statement. So this basically is a question on isotherms. What do you mean by isotherms? It is an imaginary line that connects the places with similar or the same temperature. So this is called as an isotherm. Do you understand? So for example, if you actually take North America. So let's see. Let's say you are taking North America. Okay. So for example, this is your North America. Okay, and how are the isotherms? So this is actually, these are your tropics or the latitudes. So you can actually see if this is somewhat 30 degrees, let's say, and this is 20 degree, and this is actually 10 degree, and then it goes on like 5 degrees, 0 degrees, so on. Okay, so ideally what happens, isotherms are the lines that actually have to connect the places which actually have the same temperature, right? So what happens is that the isotherm, now let me use another color of pen. So the isotherm actually connects. So this area is what? It is 20, and this is actually the ocean regions, right? So usually what happens? The land actually has what? It has less specific heat. That means what? During the summer, the land actually gets heated faster compared to that of the oceans. And similarly, during winter, the land gets cold faster. That it loses heat faster when compared to that of the oceans. Okay, so what happens is that when the isotherm actually passes here, what happens here? Already the ocean is actually cold. Let's say for example in winters, so here already it is actually 20, so here it is also again 20 degrees, again 20 degrees, again 20 degrees. Now it is going to hit the land. Here during winter, what happens? The land is going to be comparatively cold, right, when compared to that of the ocean. So there is actually a dip over here. And further, as you move towards the land, and when the land is continental or it is landlocked, then what happens? Here, the moderating effect of the sea won't be there. So the continental or the landlocked region is even more cold. Okay. So again, it actually comes over here. And then again, so what happens? This will be 20, because here this portion or this region is actually towards the equator, so it is going to be warmer, right? Because this is going to be colder, so it connects like this. Okay, so this is how isotherms actually bend or when they are moving poleward. Okay, so now let's see what's asked in the exam. So they have actually said in the month of January, the northern hemisphere, in the northern hemisphere, isotherms bend equatorward while crossing the landmass and poleward while crossing the oceans. Right? I have explained you very easily. So landward when they cross a landmass, because I actually told you the land as well as the ocean differential, what happens? They actually dip and then they move forward. So this is actually correct. Okay. The statement 2, in January, the air over the oceans is warmer than over the land masses in the northern hemisphere. So this is also correct. Okay, because the specific heat of the land is very low. It actually loses the temperature or gains the temperature very quickly when compared to that of the oceans. So what does this say? So both statement 1 and 2 are correct, and statement 2 explains statement 1. Okay, so first statement itself is correct. So here your answer will be option A. Okay. Now let's move forward. See, this is actually your isotherm. So again, this is during the month of January and this is winter, where the sun is actually over here towards the south. Okay, over the equator, or you can say the tropic of what to say, Cancer or Capricorn. Please do mention where it is actually present. Okay, so here you can see these are the isotherms, and when it is actually the ocean, it is poleward, and when it is actually towards the land, it actually dips. Okay, so this is towards the equator. See, this is your equator, and it again goes up and then comes down, where it is the opposite in the what to say, month of July, when in summer. Okay, so this is the next question. Now moving forward, the 28th question is, in the context of effect of water on rocks, you need to know what are the agents of erosion or any kind of weathering that actually happens. Okay, so in context of what is the effect of water on the rocks, chalk is known as a very permeable rock. Yes, limestone, chalk, calcium carbonate, this is comparatively, what to say, this is permeable. Okay, whereas clay is impermeable, or at least or least permeable rock. Okay, this is what is statement 1. This is actually correct. Next one, chalk is porous and hence it can absorb water. Yes, correct. Okay, and that is why what happens, chalk is known as a very permeable rock, whereas clay is actually comparatively less permeable. Okay, next one, clay is not at all porous. See, one thing I would like to tell with respect to this examination, if there are very extreme statements, it's not at all, nothing can affect it, none of the above. If things are like that, mostly that statement will be wrong. Okay, so clay is not at all porous. That means what? Porosity is there, but very low. Okay, but porosity is there. You cannot say that when water actually percolates through a clay, what happens? The water does not depend, it is not, I mean, what to say, drip down. It is not essentially that meaning. So let us see which is correct in this aspect. Both statement 2 and 3 are correct. No, 2 and 3 are not correct. So first one is gone. Next one, both statement 2 and 3 are correct. No, this is also wrong. So only one of the statements 2 and 3 is correct, and that explains statement 1. So this is actually correct. Okay, so your answer is option C. Now let's move forward to the next question, 29th question. Very important. So atmosphere as a concept itself becomes important. Okay, so how and all questions can be formed, I mean framed around this topic of atmosphere is that, what are the components of atmosphere, and which is the gas which is actually found in the maximum percentage in the particular atmosphere, whether it is actually carbon or carbon dioxide, or whether it is nitrogen, or whether it is argon or krypton. All those you need to know. Okay, so that way the composition can actually be asked in any of your exam, not only UPSC but all your state PSCs also ask that kind of a question. Next one, what are the layers of the atmosphere and how is actually the lapse rate over there, or the inversion of temperature. Okay, so what are the layers? This is troposphere, stratosphere, and in troposphere there is actually a normal lapse rate. That is when you actually climb up, when the altitude rises, the temperature actually declines, whereas it is opposite. So inverse lapse rate is found, or the inversion of temperature is in the stratosphere, and this is the region where your flights and all these things actually fly. And in the troposphere itself, maximum what happens, all the climatic conditions or the climatic events actually take place, and it has a lid that is called as the tropopause. Okay, so all these things you need to know. And where is the lapse rate, where is inversion of temperature, and then the ionosphere, because of the ionization process, what are the resultant the auroras that is actually formed, aurora borealis as well as australis, which region, all that you should know. And here the question was very, very simple. If there was no atmosphere, temperature will actually fall below the freezing point everywhere on the earth's surface. Obviously, the atmosphere, if this is the earth, atmosphere acts as a protecting lid. It has different kinds of gases such as the carbon dioxide, the nitrogen, the oxygen, and so on. And specifically, if you see the gases like carbon dioxide, etc., they are capable of trapping the incoming solar radiation. Okay, and so there is actually heat, and that is why there is a regulation of temperature or maintenance of temperature on the surface of the earth. Otherwise, the earth will actually become a cold ball of ice. Do you understand? So this is actually correct. So heat that is absorbed and trapped by the atmosphere maintains our planet's average temperature. Yes, correct. Atmosphere's gases like carbon dioxide are particularly good at absorbing and trapping radiation. Very basic, simple questions, right? So all the three statements are correct. So 1, 2 and 3 are correct. So your answer is option C. Okay. Now let's move forward and consider the next question, question number 33. Okay. So scientific studies are actually suggesting that a shift is taking place in the earth's rotation. If you know any kind of current affairs that we actually discussed, then you know. Okay, so you know, if you know it, that's it. It's very, very simple. Yes, there has been scientific studies that were saying that there are shifts in the earth's axis. Why does this actually happen? Does it happen because of solar flares that are associated with the CMEs, that is the coronal mass ejections, or the geomagnetic storm that actually comes from the sun towards the earth? See, geomagnetic storms actually cause a lot of disruption in the communication as well as the satellites, the data that we actually get, all that gets disturbed. But then all that sticks to the atmosphere. But what relation does it have with that of the rotation, or you can say the tilt of the earth's axis? So this statement is correct, however, but this is actually not explaining statement 1. Let's see if the next statement explains. As the earth's polar ice melts, the water tends to move towards the equator, and because of this, is there a rotation or a tilt in the earth's axis? If you ask me, yes. Why? Because when the polar, the ice at the poles actually melt down, what happens is that there is shift in this water from this region towards, what happens, there is readjustment. Okay, so water actually moves down towards the equator. So what happens, distribution, okay, or the entire mass of distribution totally changes. This actually changes the inertia of the earth, and that actually results in a slight tilt in the earth's axis. Okay, so this explains this one. So now let's see, both statement 2 and 3 are correct. Yes, both are correct. And both of them explain statement 1. No, only one of them explain. Which one? This third one. So both statements are correct, but only one of them explains statement 1. So here itself, the answer is option B. So you need not even go to the other section. Now, question number 63. So if you see, of the total ethanol productions, because why ethanol is in the question? Because the biofuel, specifically India is targeting for ethanol blending of 20%, right? So you need to know which is the largest producer of ethanol, where India stands, whether we have what are the different steps or the different generations of biofuels, that is first generation, second generation, third generation, where you actually make use of the agriculture produce or the food products, or you can say the fermentation process is actually involved. All that you need to know. Okay, so also you need to know of the major ethanol producers in the world, Brazil and the United States. Yes, these are major producers. The former produces more, Brazil produces more. No, the world's largest producer of ethanol is United States, and Brazil is the second largest producer. So this is a fact. In case you know, then you would have actually gotten this right. Okay, so this statement is wrong. Statement 2, unlike the United States of America, here Primarily, ethanol is produced by using the agriculture feedstock. Okay, this is nothing but the corn is used here, whereas in Brazil, the sugarcane is actually used. Okay, so this is actually correct. Let's see which is actually correct in the respect of the above statement. So both 1 and 2 are correct? No, both are not correct. So again, but statement 2 does not explain statement 1. This is also incorrect. Statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is not correct. This is also wrong. So statement 1 is not correct, but 2 is correct. So your answer is option D. Okay. Now let's move towards the next question. Consider the following countries and how many of them have more than the time zone, more than 4 time zones. See, all this international dateline concept of ideal, if you move towards the east, you actually gain, or when you move towards the west, whether you lose. All these calendar days, you need to know. This concept is very, very important. And how many countries have different time zones is what you need to have. Does India have one time zone or different time zones? Please do mention in the comment section. So, consider the following countries: UK, Denmark, New Zealand, Australia, as well as Brazil. And who among the following have more than 4 time zones? For that, you should have known Brazil has only 4. Okay, so it is not more than 4. So here already the option is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Either 4 can be, here you just have to know. Okay, so here if you see, UK actually has 9 time zones. Okay, so Denmark actually has 5, New Zealand has 5, Australia has 9, and Brazil. So 4. Okay, so only 4 is actually correct. Okay, so this is actually a simple question provided you know about this concept. Next concept is about international dateline. What do you mean by international dateline? It is an imaginary vertical line that actually passes. It is around 180 degree, okay, longitude. So this is actually called as the international date line. So here towards this side you actually have the North America, and towards this side you have what? Your Siberia, that is Russia. This is where you should actually not get confused. See, one thing you need to know: if you move past the ideal, what happens? You are ahead of time. You are ahead in time, whereas if you are towards the west, you are behind in time. Okay, so this is what you need to know. So I will tell you, just consider the map as such. So if you consider this one, let's say this is North America and this is South America. Okay, and then you actually have your Asia and this region over here. So you have India over here. Okay, and then this is actually your Africa, and then you have Australia here, and then you have what? You have your New Zealand over here. Okay, so this is actually your map. Okay, so where is your international date line? It is over here, over here. So this portion is what? Siberia. This is what was asked in the question. So it's like this, it's irregular, it passes like this and all. Okay, so now you know this is actually present here. So if you move towards the east, that means what? People will be what? Ahead of time. For example, if it is actually 6:30 a.m. in the morning, here it can be 1 p.m. of the same day. If you move this side, what happens? If it is 6:30 for you over here, it can be 6:30 the previous, or you can say the morning over there. Do you understand? So this is what is the difference. Now let us see. Anadir in Siberia and Nome in Alaska are a few kilometers from each other. Yes, because if you see the map this side, if you see, this will be Siberia and this will be Alaska, and here you have the international date line, but don't confuse with this. These are only few kilometers from each other, but when people are waking up and getting set for the breakfast in these cities, it will be 2 different days. Okay, so it's going to be totally 2 different days. Why? Because of the international date line. So this is actually correct. They are going to be in 2 different dates. Okay, because the ideal is between. So basically they're talking about Alaska over here as well as Siberia over here. So if you have moved past it, what happens? There is actually going to be a difference. Now we are moving towards the east, and here what happens? Your Siberia is actually towards the west. So let's see, when it is Monday in Anadir, it is Tuesday in Nome. So Nome is actually in Alaska and anadir is over here. Okay, so if it is Monday over here, you have moved towards this side. Is it Tuesday? No, right? It is this side towards the west. Okay, so normally, see, don't confuse by bringing these two and putting the international date line over here. It is actually Monday over here, so it is going to be what day in Alaska? It's going to be Sunday. It's not going to be Tuesday. Okay, so do not actually watch do not combine Russia over here, and don't assume North America over here. Just consider however it is on your atlas, so you will be right. A simple example, if now what is the time? It's around 6:15. Okay, so in India it is 6:15, so India is over here, and if you move towards Japan, it's going to be around 3 to 4 hours more. Okay, so it is actually going to be around 10 p.m. over here, whereas if I move towards America, it's going to be early morning for them. Okay, the same day. So that is how you need to what to say, conclude with this particular topic of international dateline. So this is actually wrong, this is actually correct, so only one. So the answer is A. Now, let's actually move forward to the next one. Okay, so this is actually the country and the resources that are present. So, Botswana, of course, diamond, Chile, lithium, and Indonesia, nickel. So, all these are part of resources, okay, or economic geography. So, you need to know. Even if you know one of it, like for example, if you know that lithium is abound in Chile, then what happens? You can actually deduce the answer. So, all the three are correct. So, your answer is option C. Now, moving forward to the next topic, that is environment and ecology. Let's directly jump into the question. So, this is what it is, question number 31. So, what does it say? Studies indicate that carbon dioxide emissions from the cement industry account for more than 5% of the global emissions. Okay, so you need to know what are the major carbon emitting industries. Okay, so what are they? One, it can be cement. Next is actually your fertilizer. Okay, next is your fertilizer. Then next one is steel. Okay, etc. So cement, so all of these, what actually contributes to the highest emission of carbon, you need to know. So in that way, 5% is because of the cement industry. This is correct. Second one, silica bearing clay is mixed with limestone while manufacturing cement. So where whatever process you undertake in order to produce cement, there will be release of carbon dioxide. Okay, so that is why we are struggling to reach our net zero target. Okay, so this is one of the reasons. So if you know that, then yes, this is going to be one of the explanations for this one. Next one, limestone, that is CaCO3, calcium carbonate, is converted to lime. So when it is converted to this, what happens? There will be release of CO2, okay, for the cement manufacturing. So because of this also, what happens? It contributes to more pollution. So what are the current statements is that both statement 2 and 3 are correct, and both of them explain statement 1. So your answer is option A. Next, let's move towards COP28. All conference of parties become extremely important. Okay, so recently we had what? COP29 Azerbaijan, and then before that you had COP28, and Paris Agreement is actually one of the most favorite topics that UPSC always asks. So they have asked Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change is frequently discussed in the global discussions on sustainable development and climate change. Yes, they are declaring it. Yes, it is declared. Now, Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change sets out the principles of carbon markets. Yes, we have discussed this in our masterclass as well. Yes, Article 6 actually talks about carbon markets. Okay, so first of all, where was this concept of carbon markets introduced? You need to know Kyoto Protocol 1997. Okay, however, India actually ratified the Kyoto Protocol in 2002. All that story you need to know. Next one, Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change intends to promote the inter-country non-market strategies also. See, don't get confused. Already are talking about the carbon market strategies. Again, they're talking about non-carbon market inter-country strategies. But this is also correct. Okay. So you need to know in detail about what India has adopted and what are the different articles that actually indicate. All that you need to know. So both the statements are correct. So let's see, both statement 2 and 3 are correct, and both of them explain now explain one. Yes, both of them are correct and both of them actually explain one. So here also your answer is option A. Next one is question number 36. So what do you mean by direct air capture? We have actually studied different methods of carbon sequestration. What do you mean by sequestration? You are actually capturing the carbon at the source. That is, when an industry actually gives out emits the carbon dioxide, you are actually capturing it, then you are storing it somewhere underground and you are utilizing it for other purposes also. So similar is the method of direct air capture. Okay, so it can be used as a way of carbon sequestration. That is basically you're removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Yes, don't think only if you store it underground it means sequestration. You are just removing it and utilizing for some other purpose. That is called sequestration. So it can be a valuable approach for the production of plastic and food processing. So they can be used for other purposes also. Here it is used for food processing, but the application is very limited. However, the statement is actually correct. Next one, in aviation, it can be a source of carbon for combining with hydrogen to create synthetic low carbon fuel. Okay, so what is this question number? It is question number 36, right? Yes, so this is also correct. In aviation it can be a source of carbon that can be combined with hydrogen also to produce fuel. So here all the three statements are correct, so your correct answer is option C. Next one, move forward. Question number 37 regarding the peacock tarantula. So most of it is actually, you know, the exposure. If you have actually watched the series Friends, okay. So Joey would be scared of a tarantula that Phoebe actually brings in, right? So if you had known that, you could have actually cracked this, okay. So don't be confused regarding peacock tarantula. Why peacock tarantula? Because this is a spider that actually has the color of a peacock, that is blue. That's why it's called as peacock tarantula. So now you know it's a spider. So are spiders crustaceans or do they come under arthropods? You need to know that. So these are not crustaceans. So one is gone. If one is gone, these two are gone. Now 2 and 3 are there. Let's see the second one. Its natural habitat in India is only limited to some forest areas, specifically some of the areas of Andhra Pradesh. Do you understand? If you know it, you know it, otherwise you don't know. So this is actually correct, and in its natural habitat, it's an arboreal species that is it lives on trees. So this is also correct. So 2 and 3 are correct. So your answer is option D. Okay. Now let's move forward to the next question with respect to the carbon dioxide emission in India. You need to know with respect to carbon dioxide emission, what is the per capita emission? Similarly, with respect to plastic pollution, what is the per capita plastic pollution? Whether India is the first largest, contributor of plastic waste or the emitter of the GHG, all that you need to know. Where India stands specifically globally with respect to Asia Pacific region, all that becomes very important. So carbon dioxide emissions in India are less than 0.5 tons carbon dioxide per capita. One more taking is if UPSC comes up with some numbers, no, just believe that it's wrong. So that way your elimination becomes easy. So it's not 0.5 tons, it is around 1.8 tons of carbon dioxide per capita. So this is wrong. So one is gone, this particular statement is gone, and this is also gone. Next, in terms of CO2 emissions from fuel combustion, India ranks second in the Asia Pacific region. Yes, this is actually correct because China stands first, and their per capita carbon dioxide emission is around 8.8 tons, which is huge. Okay. So this is correct. Then which are the major sectors that are sources of carbon dioxide emission? Electricity and heat. This is also correct. So 2 and 3 are correct. Here your answer is option C. Okay. Now let's move forward to the next question. That is this. These are the description of the plants, and what are these descriptions? This is actually a part of your botany of your basic science, right? So if you see cassava, it is actually a woody shrub. Yes, this is correct. Okay. Cassava, you would know in the African region. Ginger, yes, ginger is a herb. Okay, remember that. So they say herbal tea, which has ginger, no? So it is actually a herb with a pseudo stem. This is also correct. Malabar, a Malabar spinach. This is a herbaceous climber. No, Malabar spinach, I think, is not a herbaceous climber. Yeah, it is a climber. Yes, it is a climber. Next is mint. It is actually an annual shrub. I don't think so. This is not a shrub. And papaya is also not a woody shrub. So only these three are actually correct. Let me, check once more. Yes, yes, these three are actually correct. So papaya is a herbaceous plant. Papaya is a herbaceous plant. Okay, do you understand? So only these three are correct, and mint is nothing but it is a perennial herb. So you need to know what is the difference between a shrub and a herb. So first three are correct, so only three, option B. Okay, so sometimes you need to take risks while solving the paper. Okay, because they are not going to provide a platter by giving you all the questions that you know. It's impossible. Okay, so you need to take risks, but also limited risks, not attempt all 100 questions and get 50 wrong. It won't be useful. So with reference to planet Earth, consider the following. Rainforests produce more oxygen than that produced by the oceans. Is it correct? No. You might think Amazon rainforest is actually called as the lungs of the earth because it actually produces oxygen, but this is wrong. Majority of the oxygen on earth is provided by the marine ecosystem, or you can say the ocean. So this is actually wrong. So first one already gone, so this is gone. Next one, marine phytoplankton as well as photosynthetic bacteria, which is called as the cyanobacteria, they produce about 50% of the world's oxygen. Yes, they produce 50% of the world's oxygen. See, this and all is application based. Just need to think. Okay, so this is a continuation of the first statement, right? So well oxygenated surface water contains several folds higher oxygen than in atmosphere. See, here they were talking about the production or the productivity of the forest as well as the ocean ecosystem with respect to oxygen. But here they are talking about what? Holding, okay, higher oxygen than in the atmospheric air. No. Okay, air, that is atmosphere, actually has maximum expanse of what? The oxygen, right? So higher oxygen is present in the atmosphere. So this is also wrong. Only 2 is actually correct. So this is also wrong. So the answer is option B. Okay. Now let's move forward to the next question. Um, Sorry, there's a question that has come by mistake with respect to science and technology. Let's move forward. You would have discussed science and technology already. So now we are going to talk about history, art and culture. Let's move. So consider the following statements about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So he has been a social reformer and he always believed in what? He was actually very well attracted by the Western education as well as the Eastern philosophies, like what? You have the Sufism, you have the Buddhism, which is actually coming from there, and also Western modern education. That is why long back in that period itself, he actually believed a lot in an egalitarian society. That's why he actually fought against the social evils like sati, then we had the widow remarriage, or you can say a widow should not get married, all those things. But anyways, widow remarriage is related to Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Let's leave him now. We will talk only about this person, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Okay, so he possessed great love and respect for the traditional philosophical system of the East. Yes, because he actually mixed the Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy, and he came out with a liberal idea. So first one is correct. He desired his countrymen to accept the rational and scientific approach and the principle of human dignity and social equality of men and women. This is also correct. So you know that both these are correct. So both 1 and 2. This is C. See, directly these are sentences which are not given in your spectrum, or you can actually see your Bipin Chandra. Direct statements are not given, but indirectly they will actually speak about it. Okay, so you need to understand the essence, apply that and get your answers correct in this examination, specifically in your prelims. Next one. Consider the following with respect to non-cooperation movement. There are two questions with respect to non-cooperation movement. Okay, so when the non-cooperation movement actually came, the leaders decided that we will boycott the law coat and the foreign cloth. Instead, we will actually adopt the Indian khadi. This is what they decided. Next one, observance of strict non-violence. Yes, we will completely follow the principle of ahimsa or non-violence is what they thought. Next one, retention of titles and honors without using them in the public. No, this is wrong. People actually gave up their titles that were actually conferred to them by the Britishers. For example, Rabindranath Tagore had given away his knighthood. Okay, knighthood after the incident of Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Okay, so this statement is wrong. Then establishment of panchayats for settling the disputes. Yes, do not go to the courts because you are boycotting the law courts. Why do you have to go to them to resolve your disputes? Instead, let us establish a panchayat system. So this is also followed. So 1, 2 and 3. So 3 are actually correct. So C is your possible option. Okay, so this is your correct answer. Now let's move forward to the next one. See, there are very less chances that you know about this irrigation device that is called as Araghata. Okay, so it is actually a wheel like this. On that there are spokes which are like this. To that what happens is that the pots, or you can say your buckets, are actually kept over here. The water is drawn and the water actually pours from here onto the crop. So this is actually an irrigation device. Okay, so here it's a water. So from this explanation, what do you say? It is a large wheel with earthen pots. Earlier the pots were made of wood and now it is actually made up of what? Pots to the outer ends of their spokes. So this is actually the right answer. It is B, or you could have even chosen to leave this question if you're confident with the other questions that we discussed. The next one, 14th question. Who among the following rulers in ancient India had assumed the titles Mattavilasa, Vichitrachitta and Gunabhara? So these titles and the rulers, the titles were given to them because of their military conquest, their accomplishments, as well as the administration and governance that they actually took, or you can say took forward or implemented in their respective kingdoms, right? So which Chitrachitta, Mattavilasa and Gunabhara was given to none other than Mahendra Varman of the Pallava dynasty. Okay, so similarly you should know others also. For example, Vikramaditya. Vikramaditya, this was given to whom? This was given to Chandragupta or Samudragupta. Please do mention in the comment section. And similarly, the term Priyadharshi was given to Ashoka. Okay, and then this was given to Chandragupta. Then what are the other names? Yeah, you can talk about, you can say the Gangai Konda, Gangai Kondan was given to Rajendra Cholan. Okay, Rajendra Chola. Okay, so all these names you need to know. Okay, all these titles that were given to them. So in this case it is Mahendra Varman. Next question, Fa Hian, he is actually a Chinese Buddhist monk who traveled in India during the reign of, it was during the Gupta period. Again you need to know in the Gupta period which ruler was ruling when he actually visited. Okay, whether it is Samudragupta? No, the answer is Chandragupta. It's a straightforward question. It's not analytical and all. You need to know it. Okay, so this is answer is option B. Next one, let's move forward. Who among the following led a successful military campaign against the kingdom of Sri Vijaya? Okay, so what happens in the Chola dynasty? There was this great kingdom, Gangai Konda Chola, that is Rajendra Chola. He actually led a military conquest, military conquest against the kingdom of Sri Vijaya. Okay, Sri Vijaya. So this was actually there, and this was a maritime state. This ruled, okay, the Malay Peninsula in Southeast Asia. So which person was related to that? Rajendra Chola. Okay, so here you have answer is our option C. Okay, so you need to know ancient history and the best book for it is I think it's 11th or 12th standard history book of Tamil Nadu syllabus. It has all these details. Okay, that one book is sufficient. Next one, with reference to ancient India, consider the following. Here, the territorial region as well as the river flowing through. This is actually a difficult question. So, just for the sake of it, let's try answering it. Okay. Asmaka, yes, Godavari is correct. Okay. Next one is Kamboja. It is Vipas. Do you know Vipas is also called as the Beas River? Okay, so this is not your Cambodia, but this is Punjab, Punjab region. So this is wrong. Next, Avanti Mahanadi. Is it correct? No, this is also wrong. Next one is Kosala Sarayu River. Yeah, this is correct. So 1 and 4 are correct. So only 2 are correct. Okay. So B. Okay. Now let's move forward to the next question. The first Gandharva Mahavidyalaya. Okay. It was actually a music training school that was set up in the year 1901 by Vishnu Digambar Paluskar. Okay. So these are all very static, and it was established in Lahore. So this is option D. Okay, so there's nothing much to explain over here. You just need to know. Here, now the Ashokan rule becomes very important. Okay, Mauryas, the Ashokan rule, the rock edicts, the inscription, and the stupas, which are actually related to this particular timing, the locations that are associated with this person, his expeditions, all that become important. Okay, next one, conquests, I mean not expeditions. So Ashokan inscriptions suggest that Pradeshika, Rajuka and Yukta were important officers at. So definitely administration of Ashoka extremely important. Okay, administration of each and every rule becomes important. Okay, as well as architecture, the kind of social fabric they established, and what is the importance they gave to women, and how do they actually, whether they were secular, whether they were tolerant. Because if you see Mughals, towards the later Mughals, Aurangzeb was extremely intolerant towards whom? The Sikhs as well as the Hindus. So similarly, you need to know about each and every rule. So here, this Pradeshika, Rajuka and Yukta were associated to district level administration. Okay, so Pradeshika was actually a district in charge. So this person is what? District in charge. And Rajuka is a person who is responsible for the measurement of land in Ashoka's administration. And Yukta was actually related, or a person in charge of the revenue of the king and the kingdom. So this is the meaning. So district level administration. So your answer is option B. Now the next question is 20. Okay. So statements, again, second question on non-cooperation movement. The Congress declared the attainment of Swaraj by legitimate and peaceful means to its objective. Yes, because in the 1920 session of the Indian National Congress that took place in Calcutta, what happened? The Congress actually declared that we need to declare independence or free from the British rule. That was called as Swaraj, and this was taken as its objective, and it was implemented in stages. Here you would be confused, but yes, please read Bipin Chandra, you will actually understand. They said that we will take this in stages. Okay, so let us for now have what we can actually disobey the civil law that is put up by the British, and also let's not pay the taxes. Okay, taxes for the next stage only if Swaraj did not come within a year. Okay, and if the government actually resorted to repression, then we can do this. So these both statements are actually correct. So both 1 and 2, this is option C. Now let's move to the 71st question. Sedition has become my religion. This was asked in your Rajasthan PCS. Okay, so sedition has become was the famous statement that was given by Gandhiji at the time of. So Gandhiji as a personality becomes important. So what are all the reforms? What are its principles? Starting from DPSP principles, intoxication of drinks, liquor, all that you need to. Then focusing on the Panchayati Raj, that becomes important from polity perspective. And with respect to history perspective, you need to know what are the satyagrahas and the principles, like whether he was part of Champaran Satyagraha, whether what did he do at the Dandi March, all those things you need to know. Okay, so this was a statement that was given. What happened? The British actually had what? Monopoly of the salt law in India, right? So in order to break this monopoly, what happens in 1930s, Gandhiji actually conducted a salt march, okay? So this was called as the famous Dandi March, okay? In order to disobey the monopoly, or to break the law which was actually imposed by the British on Indian salt stretches. So this is where this entire process was actually considered by the British as seditious, okay? So that is the time when he actually uttered this statement, sedition has become my religion. So this actually happened while violating the salt law at Dandi. So here your answer is option B. Now let's move forward to the dancing girl found at Mohenjo-daro is made of, okay? So this actually talks about, it's a very very famous sculpture by the people of Mohenjo-daro, and this is actually made of bronze, and this dates back to around 1500 BCE. Okay, so this is what is your the sculpture made of what material also becomes important. Even in Mughal architecture, it is made of which of the following material can be asked. Next one, who provided legal defense to the people arrested in the aftermath of the Chauri Chaura incident? What is Chauri Chaura incident? This was what, an incident after which, see, people actually thought that we initially the leaders actually said, let us resort to what, non-violent movement, right? But people were actually, they turned out violent because they were not able to stand the oppression of the Britishers. So what did they actually do? They set the police station at I think this happened in Gorakhpur, that is Uttar Pradesh, and there they actually set the station ablaze, okay? That is a police station, and around 22 to 30 policemen were actually killed, and this was called as the Chauri Chaura incident, and after which the non-cooperation movement was actually suspended. And for the people who were actually arrested by the police, what happened, you had the lawyers like the Madan Mohan Malviya as well as Krishna Kant, who actually gave them a helping hand, okay? So this is actually your next topic. Now moving forward, the 74th question, subsequent to which one of the following events Gandhiji, now do you realize how important this personality is? So Gandhiji, who consistently opposed the untouchability and appealed for eradication from all spheres, decided, that is, from after which point in time Gandhiji included the oppressed classes or the so-called scheduled caste or the Harijans in his political and the social program. Okay, so what happened was the British actually came up with something called as the communal award, okay, which actually proposed the electoral representation. So electoral or a separate electorate for the oppressed classes, that is the SCs. But then what did Gandhi say? No, I will actually not accept it. Even when our Dr. B.R. Ambedkar actually said that we need representation of the people. So it is actually better to have what, representation of the oppressed classes. What happened? Gandhiji said, no, I am not okay with the separate electorate because it will further lead to bifurcation in the society. So that is why let them have a reservation in the political represent, I mean let them be represented through reservations, okay? So let's have reservation rather than having a separate electorate altogether, okay? So this is what Gandhiji said and took up what, fast unto death. So after that what happened, there was actually the Pune Pact that was signed between Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as well as Gandhiji. Okay, so now what happens from then on, all the welfare as well as all the activities should actually have the focus on the upliftment of the Harijans was what concluded. So this is the story behind Pune Pact. Okay, so this is option A. Next one, let's see the following um, species, or what to say, which of the above fruits were introduced by the Portuguese? Papaya, pineapple and guava, all these are usually, they are the fruits of origin from Northern America, Central America and the Caribbean, and they were introduced, all three were introduced by Portuguese into India. So papaya, pineapple as well as guava. And also you have other it's not a fruit but tobacco was also brought about by them. And then we have the mirchi, the chili, okay, that was also brought about by them, etc. Okay, and then custard apple, okay, which we call as Sitafal. You can actually think that it's Sitafal, so it is India. No, it is from the Caribbean. Okay, so 1, 2 and 3, all the 3. So this is option C. Now let's move forward to the next question about the following. Who was the founder of the self-respect movement? Okay, so similarly you will have different movements that would have been carried out by the freedom fighters in different parts of the country. All that also becomes important. Okay, so here the self-respect movement is very, very familiar. So around 1925, this was actually against the Britishers. Okay, and what to say, this was against the rituals also that the society actually kept. So this is the self-respect movement introduced by E.V. Ramasamy or Ramaswamy Naikar of Tamil Nadu, who was also called as Periyar. Okay, so the answer here is option A. Now let's move forward to the last segment of this particular session, that is current affairs. So current affair questions, all important questions we had actually covered in our masterclass as well as in the magazine and the DNA sessions. It would have actually been very, very useful if you had gone through them. Okay, so consider the following statements. India has joined the Minerals Security Partnership as a member. Even if you don't know this statement, let's wait. India is a resource rich country in all the 30 critical minerals. No country can be resource rich in all the minerals that it actually had. India just identified 30 critical minerals, but it does not abound. Okay, so second one is wrong. If you eliminate second, you have eliminated all these 3. You have come to the answer. See, 1 and 3 only. 1 and 3. Anyways, this is actually a US led alliance where 14 members are there. Alongside, you have EU also. Okay, so India recently became it actually joined, it became a member of the Mineral Security, and also the Parliament had amended the Minerals Act of 1957. Okay, so this is correct. So what is your answer? It is C, that is 1 and 3 only. Next one, the question number 30. Consider about Rashtriya Gokul Mission. What does that mean? It is with respect to indigenous animals or cattle rearing, right? So here it is important for the upliftment of the rural poor, as majority of the low producing indigenous animals are with marginal farmers or landless laborers. Yes, 80% of the indigenous animals are with them. So this is actually correct. So you need to know about the mission, of course. According to ministry wise, you need to know. Next one, it was initiated to promote indigenous cattle and buffalo rearing and conservation in a scientific manner. So this is very, very important. Don't be carried away by scientific holistic manner. This is predominantly a major crux of the entire mission. So you need to know. So both the statements are correct. So your answer is option C. Now let's move forward for the next question. Consider the following statements. Very, very important. COP 28. Okay, so at the 28th UN United Nations Climate Change Conference, India refrained from signing declaration on climate and health. Yes, India refrained from doing this. So what is this agreement? So this actually happened at UAE. This is the UAE declaration on climate and health. Okay, so this is it. So India actually did not sign. Why it hasn't signed, that is the question. Okay, so the COP28 declaration is a binding declaration. So if India signs it, it becomes mandatory to decarbonize the health sector. This is not binding. It is not binding. So second one is already out of the game. Next one, why India did not sign it? If India's health sector is decarbonized, then the resilience of the healthcare system may be compromised. Yes, right? So, India is actually a developing country and we majorly produce energy which definitely releases in a significant amount of carbon emission. Okay, so if we are trying to decarbonize it, we don't have such sophisticated technology that will help us transition or transition to greener methods of energy. So thinking about all the repercussions and thinking about taking actions in a slow but a very promising manner, India did not sign it. So this actually explains this one. Okay, so here both statement 2 and 3 are correct. No, 2 is not correct. Both are correct. Again, no, only one of the statements is correct and explains statement 1. So here your answer is option C. Okay, now let's move forward to the next question. Which one of the following had launched the Nature Solutions Finance Hub for Asia and Pacific? This is purely current affairs. This is by Asian Development Bank in collaboration with OPEC funds, that is Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries for International development. Okay, so this is the organization. So your answer is option A. Now let's move forward to the next question. 70th question. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana we discussed under the schemes and initiatives in detail. Okay, so we actually discussed in our prelims masterclass under government schemes. This has actually been under Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So it targets 1 crore solar rooftop panels. This option is correct. So when one is correct, this is actually eliminated because one is not a part. Now the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy aims to impart training on installation, operation, maintenance and repair of the rooftop systems at the grassroots levels. Of course, sounds correct, right? Sometimes you have to go by your instincts. Next one, it aims to create more than 3 lakh. Don't be confused about the number. Yes, this is 3 lakh and skilled manpower through fresh skilling and upskilling under the scheme component of capacity building. Yes, out of the 3 lakh, 1 lakh people will be the solar PV technicians. Okay, this also we discussed in our prelims masterclass. So this is actually correct. So all the three statements are correct. So answer is option D. Okay, so that's why I tell you what is the outcome of the scheme, who are the people who are eligible for availing that particular scheme, what is actually the target or the cap that the government actually gives, for example your pension scheme, etc. All that you need to know. Next one, the region and the country. Okay, so Mallorca, Italy. No, Mallorca is actually in Spain and it is the 7th largest island in the Mediterranean. Okay, don't worry if you don't know, it's completely fine. Normandy is actually in France. Okay, and it's a cultural region. Sardinia, this is actually in Italy. So none of them are correctly matched. Okay, so none of the above. So your answer is option D. Now let's move forward to the next question, 90th. Which organization has enacted? We read specifically about EU restoration plan in order to protect the ecosystem health or the biodiversity health of the European Union. So the direct answer is European Union. Okay, so the answer is option A. Now let's move forward to the 92nd question. Very important. We read about this. Okay, I told you 3 regional organizations are there. One is ASEAN 1967, then came what you call it as SAARC somewhere around 1985, and then came BIMSTEC, that is around 1997. So if you had known that, you will know it came into existence not in 1999 but in 1997. You would have eliminated this very easily. If 2 would have gone, first statement would have gone, as well as I think, yeah, B would have actually gone. So you would have to choose between C as well as D. Now let's see. It is a regional organization consisting of 7 members till January 2025. Yes, it has 7 members. Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multisectoral as well as Economic Cooperation. Okay, so here I already told you it was called as the BISTEC. Okay, so Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka and Thailand were the founding members. So it was called as the BIST Economic Cooperation. So if you see Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka and Thailand, Nepal would not have been there. Okay, if you were very attentive. So Nepal and Bhutan joined at a later stage in 2004. So you would have eliminated this one also. So third one would have easily gone, right? So third has already gone there. Now you have to choose between. So 1 is correct. Now 4 you need to know whether it is there or not. Again I told you, like other regional organization, this organization also focuses on regional stability, economic cooperation, etc. and regional security, but it is divided into different sectors. So there are around 14 sectors and each sector is led by different country. This is what I told you. Okay, so here tourism is actually being led by India? No. India leads the security sector. Okay, cyber security, maritime security, etc. So, security is whom? It is actually India and tourism is by Nepal. Okay, so here 4 is also wrong. So, your answer is option D. Next one, let's see the next question. 93rd. Who amongst the following are members purely current affairs? Gandhi Peace Prize. Okay. So who happens to be a jury? You have to know. These are all very, very static. Okay. So you have to know it. So president is not there. Prime Minister, Chief Justice, leader of opposition. Along with this, you will have the speaker also of the Lok Sabha and two eminent people who are selected once in 3 years. They can also be reappointed, eligible for reappointment. So this is what, so 2, 3 and 4. So where is 2, 3 and 4? Here option C. Okay. Next question. Next question, 96. So consider the following about the AI Action Summit. Again, we discussed about AI Action Summit, that is India with other countries. Around 28 countries have actually signed this AI Summit. This is what I told you. This is actually the third summit that is happening in France, and we discussed about the Bletchley Summit that took place in 2023 and the Seoul Summit which took place in 2024. Again, prelims masterclass. Okay. So co-chaired with India, the event builds and advances of the Bletchley Park Summit which was held and the Seoul Summit held. Correct. So 1 is definitely correct. Okay. So neither 1 or D cannot be there. And next one, along with other countries, UK and US also signed. Don't you have any doubts when they specifically say UK and US have also signed? No, UK did not sign. US also did not sign because they felt that there are excessive AI regulations as well as guidelines. That is why they did not sign it. So only 1 is correct. Again, answer is A. Now, let's move forward to the next one. Question number 97. Consider the following with regards to BRICS. Okay, so recently the BRICS summit actually took place. Okay, Brazil was what? Brazil actually was the president, or it had the chair, and the meeting actually took place. That is BRICS 16th summit took place. It took place in Kazan, Russia. Again discussed in the prelims masterclass. Next one, Indonesia became the full-time member. Yes, we actually discussed. Along with that, Saudi Arabia, UAE also became members. Okay. Next one, the theme was strengthening multiculturalism. Have you ever seen these regional cooperations actually, promoting culture? This is nothing but multilateralism. So please be very careful. So this is also wrong. So 1 and 2 are actually correct. So 1 and 2 are correct. So here your answer is option A. Okay. So next question is 100th question. So very important question. In the finals of 45th Chess Olympiad that was held in 2024, Gukesh Domaraju became the world's youngest winner. Yes. After defeating Russian player. No, the person was actually the opposition. The opposition was a Chinese guy. Okay. His name was Dairen. So he's from China. So this is wrong. Did you expect? The first part is right because it is very obvious. Who will even ask that? Okay. The next one, Abhimanyu Mishra, an American chess player. So don't think Abhimanyu immediately Indian. Don't think like that. So he holds the record of becoming the world's youngest grandmaster ever. Yes, he was 12 years old. Okay. So answer is B. Okay. So I think they actually missed one more question. Yeah, Coco. Yes. So this is the last question for the day. So consider the following statements with respect to the first Coco World Cup. The event was held in Delhi. Yes, it was held in Delhi. The Indian men beat Nepal with a score of 78-40 in the men's category, and in the women's category, women beat Nepal with 54-36. Again, this statement was interchanged. Okay. So in the men, they actually beat Nepal in 54-36, and the women on the reverse. So these two statements are wrong. Only statement 1 is right. So option A is the correct answer. So with this, we've actually done with the analysis of the UPSC Prelims 2025 paper. I hope all of you have actually enjoyed this particular session, and I hope all of you have actually done justice to your preparation as well as your examination. Do not worry if you have given your best and yet you're not able to qualify. There is always another chance and also a better thing that is actually coming up for you. So wish you all the best, and I will meet you in yet another live session for our daily news analysis session. Thank you so much. Thank you.